Did we do well, my darling girls? Did we really do well? We grew you up to be straight and strong, to do your best to know right from wrong.
So welcome to seventh Objectinar. We've got an in-depth interview today with a very well-known campaigner, Belle Staffy. I'm very annoyed with her that she hasn't brought the dog, because I wanted to see the dog on camera, but she owes me a drink now. She's let me down there. Big thanks to the Women's Human Rights Commission, as always, for lending us their Zoom, and to the Resistors for Rebecca giving us our tech help. I'm not very good at technology, so if something goes wrong, I will blame other people. No, I won't. No. Just please be patient. We're talking about some very sensitive topics today. We're talking about homophobia and lesbian parenting, and we're talking about paedophilia, topics which many people like to shy away from, but they are important. So if you've got any children that are in earshot or likely to wander in, you might like to, I don't know, shut the door, ask someone to keep an eye on them, or just take what measures you need to prevent them hearing things that might upset them. We do hope that you'll ask questions and also share experiences, because I'm sure some of you have got experiences that are, often you might have gone through in isolation. It's quite nice to share them in a friendly group. So do please mention in the chat or put your hand up, give us a wave if you want to contribute an experience. It's nice to share. So if you're happy to have the camera on you and have your name up, then you can give a wave in the Q&A or put your question in the Q&A. If you just want me to ask your question to Izzy or to pass on your comments to everybody, then just stick them in the chat and I'll keep an eye on the Q&A and the chat as we go through and try and give you a chance to speak. If we do select you to talk, you will need to unmute yourself. We are recording the Objectinar for our YouTube channel, which should be up very, very soon. And we'll be asking Izzy at the end if she's happy for her recording to go up there. So far, everybody has found it a positive experience and has said yes. As you know, Object campaigns on 5 key issues of objectification. We campaign on pornography, on prostitution, on the sex trade, on surrogacy, which in our view is another sex trade, and on transgenderism, which is another sex trade. They're all linked and they're all to do with objectifying women, commodifying us, using us as resources, and not treating us as human beings, and we object to that. So just a wonderful piece of news while we're waiting for people to join. Object on surrogacy. A lot of organisations were consulted by the Law Commission, who did a consultation last year, and we've discovered that nearly all the women's organisations we've talked to were very dissatisfied, felt it didn't ask the right questions, and felt that we were being picked off one by one rather than our views all collected and taken seriously. So we at Object are doing our own consultation to ask the questions that women need to ask about surrogacy. We've got some medical people helping us, and we're putting it all together. In contrast to the Law Commission's consultation, which took hundreds of hours, ours is going to take 1 hour to complete, and we only want to send it to organisations that represent women rather than anybody who likes to call themselves a woman. Oh, greetings from Bulgaria. Fantastic. So let us know if your organisation would like to complete the consultation, and obviously we'll collate the results. It's very, very simple and straightforward, but some questions need to be asked and were not asked. And then, of course, we will present the results to the Law Commission and publicise them, and no doubt they will take account of that, hopefully. If not, we'll have to kick up some more fuss. So I just wanted to mention that at the beginning. Do ask me any questions about that later if you want to. So here we are. Here's Izzy Belle Staffy talking from her van on her phone. So please be patient if she can't see very much. She hasn't got the full screen experience that we've got. Belle Staffy is a lifelong lesbian. She had a great chat to her recently, and I learned all these exciting things about her. She escaped an arranged marriage intended to cure her lesbianism when she was young. She travelled. She had a career in the probation service, and was actually the first person to think about mapping paedophile networks and the links between different paedophiles who were obviously helping each other. And she won an award for that from Yorkshire Police. She is now retired and full-time campaigning. This last week, she's been working on the managed approach up in Leeds with the Leeds Resistors. I'm sure you've all seen their wonderful activism online. Izzy campaigns on all Object's issues and fully gets all the links between them. At the moment, she's working on paedophilia, queer theory, and she runs the XX Power Nation group on Facebook, which you can find her on. She's also very, very busy on Twitter. So I'm going to ask her about her life. Oh, someone says they liked your blog. That's good.
Thank you.
So I'll ask her about her life and all the things that have happened to her, and you can ask her too. Please do join in. So, Belle Staffy, tell us a little bit about the family that you grew up in.
Okay. I was adopted, and I grew up in not my own birth family, in an adopted family, a strict Roman Catholic family, and I went to girls' convents from the age of 5 until 16. So I was brought up very, very Catholic. I wasn't academic, I wasn't clever. So basically the convents that I went to were training grounds to produce good Catholic wives and mothers. I'm a lesbian. I've known a lesbian since I'm 9. So that was never, ever, it could never have been an option for me. I would have killed myself because I'm a lesbian.
So why did you know when you were 9 that you were a lesbian?
Because it's like I like The Bionic Woman and Martina Navratilova a lot, in a different way than I liked other. It was different. And then I grew up, and then I had a relationship with a woman that was a lot older than me when I was 17. So and thought she was a lesbian, so I knew that I was a lesbian. And so yes, the family I grew up was very religious and would not tolerate and abhorred lesbianism in particular, because it was about women, and Catholicism is extremely misogynistic anyway. So it was horrific. It was a horrific time of my life, my childhood, because of my sexuality. I was dragged out the closet, and I had to leave the country they then wanted me to marry someone that's twice my age to convert me of being a lesbian, or just basically fucking marry me off. Sorry.
Don't worry. I'm sure we'll
marry me off. Just marry me off. Shut me up. And I had to leave the country. I didn't run away. I negotiated myself delicately out of a situation that really had would have had horrific consequences on me. Yeah.
Right. And where did you go?
Went to Switzerland. I've got a cousin that lives over there, and she wasn't homophobic. She liked me. And Switzerland, I knew, was very tolerant of lesbians and gays in the 1980s. So I went to Switzerland for 2 years. I negotiated my way out by saying I wanted to sort myself out and go and stay with my cousin. But I went over there to get away from them and actually live my life as a lesbian. And then I came back rather emboldened, was homeless because I was a lesbian, and hit Leeds in 1989, homeless with the clothes on my back because I was a lesbian. That's the family I came from.
Very, very difficult. What happened next?
Basically, I got myself into a situation where I was in a hostel for young women who were homeless and at risk of actually being taken to prostitution. They were they were run by Leeds City Council. I was housed and then worked with, because obviously what was happening and everything was awful. I'd also tried to kill myself when I was 17 because of the homophobia from my family and the church and everything. I just didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to do this. It was horrible. And I was a child still. I was still this flipping child.
Did you find some lesbian support? You mentioned you had a relationship.
Yeah. I hit the gay scene. I hit the gay scene in the lesbian and gay scene in Basel in 1988.
Oh yeah.
I didn't speak any Swiss then or any German. Basically, was accepted and had my first similar age girlfriend who was my age at that time, which was 19. Lived with her and taught English as a foreign language, and then my relationship with her we split up, and I flounced back to England, age 20. I went to return to my parents' house, but knew if I lived with them, I'd end up killing myself, because the pressure to be fucking straight is phenomenal. People don't realise the pressure lesbians are to accept men. It's horrible, and it's especially damaging when you're so young and you have such a young psyche.
Must have been a very difficult time for you.
It's horrible. Yeah.
What a shame. So when you went back, it was just a short-term thing.
Yeah, and I got my
Parents had to take
clothes.
you out.
They went out. I got my clothes, packed them up, and I hitched into Leeds. Was homeless in Leeds. Was picked up in a bar by a woman who worked at a shelter, and then was diverted to the Young Persons Project in Leeds, which housed under 25 women who were at risk of going into prostitution because of drugs and homelessness, which was me, because of my sexuality. Not because of my sexuality, because of homophobia.
Yeah. So do you think you were lucky to run into that?
Yeah.
person who helped you?
Oh my God, I dread to think what would happen to me otherwise. I was actually on my way back down to Devon because that's where I grew up. But I worked out that Leeds was a very honest city. I'm so fond of it. I've adopted Leeds and I've been there since 1988 now. And it's I love Leeds. I'm very fond of it. Leeds has given me a lot and I want to give it back. That's why I'm so flipping active in Leeds as a radical feminist.
You tell us more about the Managed Zone a bit later. A few people are saying in the chat there similar experiences. MJ Martina saying she had suicidal thoughts from being 12 years old because of being Catholic in a sexist, homophobic family and social environment.
Yeah.
And, the Catholic Church is one of the pillars of patriarchal misogyny. I don't think anyone could argue with that. So thank you for sharing. So how did you come to work with sex offenders? What path did your life take after that?
Well, when I hit Leeds, I was homeless. I got housed by the council in the project, and I was housed with a lot of people with no hope, who were very damaged and traumatized, and I wanted out of. I didn't want to be. I lived in a hostel in Beeston next to Holbeck. It was shit. It was really hot. I've always wanted to help people, so I wanted to be a social worker. So then I got into the voluntary sector in Leeds and worked in mental health and housing and homelessness. And I did it on employment training for a full week's work for £10 a month, a week. But I knew it would get me a really good reference, and I left school with no qualifications, nothing. Me getting a job was really difficult, and also I was homeless in a hostel. We were stigmatized because where we lived, because the addresses were known. So I basically did employment training in St Anne's Day Centre with homeless, got a reference, and then got a job as a housing officer. I then reached a point in the voluntary sector where I couldn't go any further without formal qualifications. So I did an access course, passed that, and I got a place at Bradford University on the 4-year diploma in social work and applied social studies honours degree. Qualified in '96, got headhunted actually by the probation service. I chose the probation service because they literally were paying £1,000 a year or more, and I've also had quite a colourful background, and I know what it's like to be homeless, committing crime and stuff like that. So I had an edge on all my colleagues because of my background, which I was really quite quiet about and didn't big up, but I knew a lot about clients' lives, or perceived clients' lives, because I had that myself. So I had an edge. And then basically first year I inherited a case that hadn't been gate kept properly by management. On the surface it was just a routine assault on a boy. It was a routine assault on a boy. I dug around, and actually it should have been an attempted murder and rape of a child. And the guy basically was given a prison sentence, but he was under assessed for his risk, and it was sink or swim. I had the Guardian ring me up. They suddenly knew my name because it was a very high profile case. I can't say where in this country, and I suddenly clicked what I was involved in, and it was sink or swim professionally. I was a first year officer. I either went with this and survived and minimized this monster's risk of doing this again to a child, or I sank. And I'm not a sinker, I'm a survivor. I'm also a survivor myself. So I toughed up and devised strategies of working with this type of character, this male predator, which are prevalent.
Yes, they're not as rare as people like to think.
No, they're not.
So in a way, your background came in very useful. I wouldn't wish your difficulties on anybody, but sometimes it's quite nice when the tough parts of your life actually
Yeah.
help you with the next bit,
Yeah,
isn't
and it did, because I understand the language that my professionals didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not middle class. I educated myself out of my class through education,
Yeah.
but I'm not middle class. Most of my colleagues in probation service are middle class. Most of the unqualified staff are working class, and most of my friends were actually probation service officers, not probation officers, because there was a class culture difference.
Yes, yes. I can see, because a lot of my mother used to work there, and she said, with these people that come straight out of university, I've got absolutely no clue. It's not necessarily, obviously you have to have your qualifications, but it doesn't necessarily equip you
No,
health, does
no.
it?
And when I went there, I had quite a lot of experience and life experience anyway.
Yes.
So that's what I kind of. But you, in order to progress in anything, you do need paper qualifications. You do, and it's not right and everything, but you do.
But you got them.
Yes, I did get them. I came out with a 2-1, and I came out as a fully qualified social worker, straight into the probation service, and then inheriting that case that was mind-blowingly, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Somebody's just sharing in the chat, actually, Kate Bromwich Alexandra. She left home at 17, cut all links with her former family, changed her name, been with her partner for 32 years, and they've got 2 wonderful gender-critical daughters. And as she points out, it
Brilliant.
sounds easy. But
No, it's not.
But it's not, and that's why I think it's good to share these experiences, because they're years and years of struggle, aren't they?
Definitely. Solidarity with you. Seriously,
Yes.
Solidarity with you. I know how hard it is, and our kids suffer from homophobia as well. Our kids really, it's not just us, it's the kids we have, they get homophobia. That doesn't happen to children that are brought up in heterosexual relationships. They have I call it heterosexual privilege. Our kids don't have that. They get the homophobia that we did, and it's as damaging. It's worse because they're young and they're children.
Yeah, yeah. And as Kate rightly says, you fought for everything, and now the trans extremists are trying to take it all away, all that tolerance and so on that gradually was moving forward.
We won hearts and minds. I've been an activist. I've been active in the movement, LGB movement, since 1989. They've taken that away. We won hearts and minds. They're demanding with threats and menacing, and it's not a civil rights movement.
No, absolutely not. No. Movement of millionaires. So you kind of, am I right in thinking you kind of drifted into working with sex offenders?
Yeah, I was allocated a very high risk case that slipped through their net, and I basically sank with it and really flipping grew up about what was going on in the world with these men. Or I sank, and no, I was at the beginning of my career. I was in my mid-20s, and I was a tough cookie. I am a survivor of CSA, and that made me a lot stronger with assessing perpetrators, because I know how they lie. A quote, the lies they tell. Yeah, I know about the lies they tell.
All the nice way of saying things, which is actually saying something very
So again, with my offenders, because of my own background, I had a head start. I had a head start of understanding of how they operate. Yeah.
So what kind of work were you doing? Were you obviously managing individual cases? What other kind of work did you do?
In probation service, I worked both in the community, supervising high risk cases men coming out of prison, and then getting back into the community, because most of them get out whether we like it or not. Even if there's someone like me is in there, trying to keep them in there as long as possible, which was actually what I did. Sorry, I've missed the question.
Yeah, just about the types of work you do. So I know you mentioned that.
Yeah, I worked in Leeds Prison for a number of years on the sex offender wing, and I ran the sex offenders treatment program, and I did that with men who actually accepted their offence, would say yes, they had done it and stuff, even to a tiny degree. I'd have them on. It was some admittance. Most of them didn't admit it at all. They didn't care. They didn't give a shit, and they weren't going to chat to me. They weren't even going to jump through the hoops to get parole, because they knew they'd get out anyway. Cocky.
Yeah. Is that because the prisons are just too crowded?
Yeah, it costs a lot of money to keep a man in prison. It doesn't cost a lot to put him in a hostel or even put him in a bed set and forget about him. It costs nothing to forget about him, and a lot of them get forgot about. Worrying, frightening. Yeah.
So tell us about the treatment program.
That was run over a 3-month period, and I could only accept men on there who actually accepted that they were guilty of the offences they were in prison for, which was like about 5%. I'm serious. 5% of them would accept it. So we would discuss the offence, what led to their offending and stuff. We were then put on a lot of pressure to introduce enhanced thinking skills to these men, basically teaching them to think better. In my book, offend better. So I went mad about this, and so this is really not on. We need to be just actually collating loads of information on these guys and passing it on to the relevant authorities. It doesn't matter how you do it, just get the information.
So who came up with the idea of teaching them enhanced thinking skills then?
Probation service and prison service. But they didn't realise that it was actually teaching them to be better bloody offenders, you know.
They thought they would not. Were they a bit naive in thinking they could change people's behaviour?
Yeah, I don't think people really don't appreciate how manipulative, dangerous these guys are. They don't stop. They do it because they love it. They can maintain erections with bleeding, screaming children, and that is a reality of paedophilia. People, these guys maintain erections during violent rapes with blood everywhere, and that's not a sadistic personality disorder. I wanted to do some study on that, about the prevalence of what I thought was a sadistic personality disorder among paedophiles and sex offenders. But I came out, so I retired eventually 8 years ago, so I didn't pursue it. But I think there's a real link between sadistic personality disorders and paedophiles. There has to be, because the action of what they're flipping doing and the pain. And that's not even talking about the trauma for decades down the line on the victims.
Are they actually getting off on the fear and the pain? The emotional reaction
to maintain yourself to orgasm and beyond on that. That's sadistic. We all say, yeah, it's sick. That's relative. Someone's sick is someone's not. That's sadistic. There's a word for it. It's sadistic. And I think a lot of them are sadists.
Seems likely, doesn't it? So you didn't really rate. You didn't think that it achieved its objectives. It was
no, it didn't. But we basically, I got my objectives, which was to keep the buggers in as long as possible. Okay, find anything on them to keep them behind bars, because I know that when they're behind bars, they're not offending against children or women. Yeah, they're safe behind bars. Society is not equipped for sexual offenders and paedophiles. We're not equipped. We can't cope with them. We put them back into the society. Wherever you put them, there's a school near. We're not equipped for these guys, and they're men. This is a male problem.
And there's supposed to be supervision, isn't there, out in the community? But from what I gather, it's a bit of
an hour in our office a week on a paedophile.
And didn't they then change that to phone calls? I mean, anyone could say anything.
Yes, you could have a child in your crotch and be on the phone
saying, "Oh yeah, I'm behaving really well. I'm doing
You can have a child in your crotch and be doing that, and on your phone to the probation officer. I used to do home visits on the really dangerous ones on my motorbike and pretend I wasn't a probation officer. I then started linking names and stuff, and I developed something called a pedo map that the West Yorkshire Police got. I didn't get an award. I had a commendation made because I developed it. It wasn't an award. There aren't awards for shit. Like, there should be.
There should be.
And I should have one, but I haven't.
You should have an award. 10, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
But you got a commendation because nobody had thought of doing it before.
No, and they're using it now. I was drawn back to a case that at the beginning of my career where I had to give evidence in court. That this guy was so dangerous that they shouldn't let him out, and I wasn't even a probation officer that wanted me to give expert evidence on the sexual history of this guy. And basically, it was they were still using, 15 years after I'd written this stuff, my pedo map, and the police were actually using it to train officers it's about networks. They're all networked now. It's actually very much easier to do it because they're all on internet and Facebook and everything. But in my day, it was all pieces of paper and who you knew. And I used to go back to my office and do a pedo map, put the man's name in the middle, and then who he knew, and then other paedophiles who they knew, and then we could actually follow. If kids went missing, we passed it to social services because it would be that child would be within that network. We had photographers. I had my photographers. I had my rapists, and I had my men that were distributing the child rape pornography. It was horrifying to watch it build up. It was scary, but it's really effective because it tracks them and they all know each other. But I say this was prior to the internet, and and
but
yeah,
the same technique is still in use now. Someone's
yeah.
asking on the chat, Gemma's asking, do you think that the treatment of offenders includes addressing sexual objectification?
Probably not. No.
Does it
When you
involve
nowadays
within
in the
the team?
probation service, I've got probation contacts still sources. Nowadays it's just tick boxes, and the education about sex offenders is minuscule. It takes decades to suss this lot out. Fucking decades. It's minuscule. There isn't the experience there, because a lot of our officers, like me, burn out and we have to retire because it's so stressful.
Well, I was going to ask you
I
about that, the effect on you personally of dealing and just having to think about all those horrendous crimes committed on such vulnerable people.
Yeah, it was hard at the beginning. You learn to compartmentalize it in a way, and it sounds really awful, but the only sexual offender that used to stick out to me at the end of my career was someone that was some really weird kink, because they all used to mass into a same kind of like personality type, sadistic personality disorders.
And is that a recognised personality disorder, or that one that you think should be a recognised?
I think it should be recognised as a personality disorder. Yeah, especially when we're looking at forensic offending and forensics. Yeah, definitely. We can't. Seriously, how can they carry on and they enjoy? No, you know.
I'm just speechless, because I think should we just put them in bars and forget about them? You know, in an ideal world, given that these men exist.
We're not equipped. Society isn't equipped for these men. They're too sneaky.
Yeah.
The society is not equipped for this level of type of offending. Or it is, and all the men get, or actually flip it, or is it as it should be, which is men having total access to children, which they fucking got. And
they're trying to get that by the trans route now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Somebody else is saying here that she used to work in the vulnerable persons unit in prison. Whilst there in 2016, and completely agrees with you. Very, very manipulative individuals. Yeah. And
if you don't really know that, you get groomed yourself by them. They condition you and groom you. I described my job to someone when I was younger as I used to groom the groomers. That was my job. I groomed the groomers, get information out of them, write about them, damn them, and keep them behind bars. Sorry if you're watching it. Hopefully none of them are watching, but they're all out now, by the way. All the dangerous men I kept inside diligently, they're all out. They always get out. And that's frightening as well. There's some men that should never get out of prison.
Well, I imagine they behave themselves in prison and get out with the minimum.
They do. They walk and talk the talk. They used to come to my sex offender treatment program and be all, oh yeah, it's terrible what I've done. It's awful. I've ruined lives. Run back to the cells, and I found out they're running back to themselves to wank over the children's TV. The children on the CBBS and stuff. That walked me out completely, because I had what I thought was a room of compliant men, and that's when you learn just how sneaky and manipulative they are. And they were rushing back and everything, and I didn't know why they were rushing back to the cells. And it was to objectify and pornography children dancing around in a children's program, wanking off in their cells. Great. That's how effective the SOTPs really are.
It's just hard to contemplate it. It's very, very hard.
Mm.
So what did you learn anything that you didn't know working with these guys?
Of how society isn't equipped for them to deal with them and manage them. We don't have the right. We cannot protect children from these men because they are so damn clever, unless we keep men away from children, which we can't do. That's never going to happen. These are,
Did you work with any autogynephile men?
Most of the men in there had fetishes. Yes, there were a few autogynephiles. Most of them had autogynephilia, but I wasn't there to talk about that. I was talking about child offending. I worked with transsexuals on the vulnerable prison unit at Leeds Prison in 1992. There was a transsexual person on the wing, a male to female. And he basically had been deprived of his bra by the prison staff to humiliate him.
Stop the world.
to humiliate him, but also because they said it would be used as maybe as a noose for hanging, because hanging is a big deal in prison, suicide stuff.
Yeah.
So basically they removed it, and he was walking up and down the wing with his arms across his boobs. He was really fucking vulnerable. This was a sex offender wing. So this is 92. I know I have actually campaigned for transsexual rights within work. I got him his flipping bra, okay, because it made him vulnerable. Having tits out on a sex offender wing with a load of rapists, you know, and it was designed to humiliate. So ironically, if I'm a big notorious transphobe, as the other side call me, I was campaigning literally for transsexual rights in 1992.
Yeah, I think we all think transsexuals should have rights, just not more rights than anybody else.
Yeah,
Everyone should have rights.
exactly. I
Yeah.
haven't got a problem with that. It's when they're demanding more rights, better
Yes,
rights,
or
special
claiming
rights,
privilege,
and my
yeah.
rights.
Yes,
No.
especially getting near children. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your greatest fear for children in danger now? 'Cause I think we all have this illusion.
It's the internet. What frightens me about children now in terms of safeguarding and child protection is the bloody internet. The pornography is literally 3 clicks away, and it's not pornography that we grew up on or witnessed when we were little girls. This is hardcore BDSM, gangbang, savage, anal, strangulation, burning, making black women look like animals. This is nasty shit, and this is the normal shit at the moment. This is normal, and this 3 clicks and children are into it. Boys are learning to make love like that or respond like that, and girls are learning to be passive rape bunnies, as I've heard.
The girls are being trained
bunnies.
into sadism, are they?
Yeah.
The boys are being trained to be sadists.
Yes, yeah, and it's like this is now training our children. My son accidentally clicked on pornography when he was 12, and I was horrified. Fortunately, it was penis and vagina, heterosexual, nothing kinky that I had to flipping try and explain. It's that easy, and what worries me is, and also with queer theory, they're getting into schools and queering our children. They're getting at our children through pornography. It's an attack on our children. I see our children being really at danger now, more so than in a long time, because of the technology, and also because of what's prevalent on our technology, which is queer bloody theory.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it true that over 90% of violent offences are committed by men, and the victims are much more likely to be women?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's important
Next
to say
question. Yes.
And the whole of the legal system is basically, you know, when they
alcohol
offend.
is a massive, a massive contribution to offending, violent offending. Alcohol is a major contributor to that, but we don't ever talk about it and recognise it. We just talk about drugs.
Yeah. Well, it's the socially acceptable white person's drug, isn't it? So we mustn't talk about it.
Exactly. So we don't talk about it and draw attention to it. Yeah.
And looking at the legal system, you know, when a man offends, like one of your horrendous offence against a child, then he gets charged, and he goes to court, and he's got a barrister there who's usually another man, whose job is to try and pretend or prove that he wasn't guilty. So it's kind of like the men. I know you have to have a court and you have to have a system, but our adversative system, where you get somebody who's an expert in arguing to try and get you off, and his objective is, for his statistics, is to say,
it's so weighted against you as a victim, as a female within criminal justice. It's so weighted against you. Rape is practically decriminalised in this country, and I'm sorry if that upsets women, but it is. No. They're not getting sentences anymore. Yeah, they're getting walkouts, or it's not done, or it's rough sex, or it's BDSM. Yeah, these men are walking out of court after taking the lives of women.
Yeah. And it's not just the odd case now, is it? There's loads of these cases.
No, and I really back the campaigns that are against rough sex, and I'm very, very anti-BDSM. Yeah. That's something I write on quite a bit as well. I'm very against that. I see it as a form of coercive control and domestic violence. Yeah. If you want my honest opinion.
I do. That's why you're here.
Yeah, and that comes from a sex offender specialist, and it comes from being a lesbian, and it comes from a bit of life experience, actually. It doesn't come from an ideologising a theory.
No, I know you're talking from your experience.
Yeah.
You know, we don't very often get people with your kind of experience on a platform. That's why I wanted to talk to you today.
Yeah,
I've got a question. Now, I wonder if we can get Alice Garcia in. She's got a question for you. about the Netflix Cuties film. So can we manage to get Alice in? I've just clicked answer live. Ooh. Can we get Alice in here? I'm guessing not. Alice, I'll ask you a question. It's a very good question. So, Belle Staffy, what's your opinion about the controversy on the Netflix Cuties film? Have you seen that? So,
No. Is it? Oh, no. I made some comments about some trolls, some little dolls with making moaning noises between its legs or something. I don't really know about the Netflix. I don't have a TV and I don't watch moving pictures.
Okay, so you haven't seen it. Yeah.
No, sorry.
Does anybody, if you want to put some more stuff in the chat about that, then we can have a bit more detail. But I'm a feeling, from what I think, it looked like paedophilia when I briefly saw it online, and I'm a feeling.
Yeah, there's a big pedo culture. I keep on people going, oh, it's a soundbite. It really exists. Yeah. Pedo culture exists. Look around at what they're doing to children. They're queering children, yeah, making boys into girls. This is all queering, and it's.
Oh, I'm just coming on to that. Yes. So, yeah. What got you interested in the transgender issue? I'm interested in banning it. Yeah, but what got you interested in? Because you were telling us, yeah, what got you into it? What was it that first got your attention?
What got me interested in, I was basically, because I'm a lesbian and open in my community, there was a suspicion that I was being an activist in my community, by my work community, and I was threatened to be fucked up by a trans woman who lives in my community. I was really scared because he used to be my friend, and that's what radicalized me. The GRA radicalized me. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I really couldn't. Amy, that flipping awful Amy Challoner.
Oh yeah.
Transed me. Karen White going into a women's prison, literally, because of my background, made me flipping cry.
Yeah.
That peak transed me. A man of that caliber with the women in prison are so bloody vulnerable. You know, they're little sticks of things with their survivors. They're addicts. They are so vulnerable. And to put a flipping pig in like that, a sexual predatory pig in, that's sadistic. To me, that's sadistic. That made me cry because I know what women are like in custody and how vulnerable they are, because I've interviewed a lot and worked in Newhall. That made me cry.
I can imagine. Someone's
and then the stupidity of men with beards who are lesbians. Fuck off.
Yes, absolutely. Apparently the Cuties thing is supposed to be a movie against the sexualization of young teens, but Netflix had pictures of little girls in pop star poses.
Oh yes, I've seen the pictures. That's pedo culture. Sexualized images of children is pedo culture.
Yeah,
that is an example of it. I've seen the picture, but I don't watch TVs. I don't watch films.
I think if it looks like a pedo picture, it is a pedo picture. So
yes,
and they should change because it was apparently against the spirit of the original film. Yeah. So tell us about your campaigning work now, Belle Staffy.
Okay, right. I'm actively involved with the managed approach in Leeds, Holbeck, with Leeds Resistors, who I would like to really big up. Hello, Leeds Resistors.
Yeah,
my brave sisters. I'm involved. I was going to say I'm in that group, but I'm involved with Leeds Resistors in the managed approach. We've done 2 recent actions in the managed approach. One was hanging a big banner saying City of Punters to basically shame the city and also scare the punters away, men, so they don't buy sexual abuse from the women. And then yesterday I was in Holbeck and we did a candlelit vigil with red hearts for the women who have been murdered by Johns, punters, and within the sex industry, in particular prostituted women. So we did that. We did that with a couple of other groups within the Holbeck area, a couple of residents groups, and we have more action in that area. So please watch this space.
We will, yes. Yeah. Tell us about it. We might come and join in.
Yes, God, definitely. Please come. You know, the more that we object to this, you know, it's going under the radar. And Leeds City Council are promoting Leeds women, the city of women and girls. Yeah, some. Yeah.
You are joking.
No, and that's why we're doing it. We've done it. We've decided to act now after the independent review, which was a whitewash. They didn't ask any of the residents anything. So that's why we're acting now. We were waiting to give them a chance to to respond to all the allegations of abuse and rape and kidnapping of women who are not prostitutes, and getting away with it by saying, the men saying that, oh, we thought they were a prostitute. These men are getting away with it. This is happening in Leeds. That's why I'm there, active. Yeah. And yeah, I do want men to be frightened bumping into me, because I'll expose them. If I can take a picture, fucking well. Mm. I don't want them coming back to Holbeck. You know, these are predators. They're going around in cars, really big, rich cars. And the girls, and they are girls. I haven't seen any prostituted women actually in Holbeck, really? If I'm to be honest. They're girls. They're trafficked girls. They've got olive skins. I think they come from Romania. So there's your link with human trafficking in Holbeck and Leeds. It's on the streets. And the prostitution isn't going on in the managed area. It's dead in there. It's all going on in the residential areas where children live. This is again, we are not targeting the approach itself. That isn't the problem. It's going on in the areas outside. When I've been there, I've been monitoring the areas for surveillance on the outside. Nothing's going on in the zone. There's no prostitution going on in there. It's too dangerous. It's a waste ground. No one will hear you scream. At least if you are getting raped on a residential area, you've got a chance of someone calling the police for you. You don't in the whole. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and it just puts women and children and girls at risk, whether you are a prostituted woman and girl, or whether you are a resident woman or girl. We were protesting yesterday, and we had a woman come out, and you know, she's coming out of a house. She'd been propositioned twice. A resident, you know, she's not interested in that type of thing. That's just going out to come and talk to us across the road. Yeah, at 50 meters. She was, you know, and I know what to look for, because because I've been out there watching and reconnaissance before we did anything to make sure that, you know, we know what we're doing.
Yeah. Got a question come up in the chat from Bev. She says, do you think that prison staff become immune or normalised to paedophilia? She said, I recall telling a security SO a prisoner had his hand under a child's dress while she was sitting on his knee.
Okay, yeah. Okay, my experience at Leeds Prison was that the security team who were in charge of visits at Leeds Prison, they were shit hot on this, okay? But it depends on the individual knowledge of the dangers of a paedophile. Yeah. People massively underestimate them, and that's where we're losing on child protection, because we are massively underestimating this breed of man.
Do you think we need to educate the general public about these men?
We need to get to the mothers, because they're the ones. Educate the mothers. Mothers, listen to me, please. Don't put photographs of your children on the internet. They're used to wank over. They really do. Don't put them in school uniforms. If you've got a pub, don't put them on the internet. You know, please don't, because they are used as pornography. I've seen this happen. In prison, they change depositions and witness statements for a bit of porn. What we see as disturbing and frightening or innocent and lovely, they see as the next orgasm, and they're coming over our children. Please don't put pictures of your children up, because we look at them like in a different way than they victimize them. We look at them beautifully and want to protect them. They want to have them. Yeah.
And their concern is really not much beyond their next orgasm, is it? They've got no care for another human being in any way at all.
You know what? And it's all worth losing everything for, and they do. It's all worth training as a Catholic priest for 7 years. It's all worth becoming a social worker. It's all worth the training. They're really dangerous.
And aren't they? I think they're much more numerous than people think. It's much more common.
And they're more normal.
Yeah.
What warped me out the most when I worked on the sex offender wing is how normal these men are.
Yeah.
Really, they're not. Then you get the Flasher-Mac brigade and the dirty old man, but do you know what? Most of them are so normal, and you're married to them. Yeah. Straight women, you're married to these guys. Yeah. Because most of these guys that I interviewed were happily married men. Okay, you're married to these guys, straight women.
Let that sink in. Tell us about XX Power Nation.
Okay, right. I inherited XX Power Nation from Dom DeGare, who's a USA radical feminist, and she followed what I was writing for quite a while, and she really liked it, and she said, could I take it over? And it's a public page on Facebook. How it's still going, I've no idea, because I pull no punches. As some of you know me, I really talk from the heart, and I don't pull any punches. How it's still allowed to be going, I've no idea. It has an international following. English isn't the first language for a lot of women. I put a lot of memes up and laugh, but I get important stuff in there as well. And it's a way of getting radical feminism out of our little bubble and out of our echo chamber to real women who don't know this stuff. So I'm doing memes. I've got I want a bit of direction with it, but it's doing really well. And again, this is outside of our echo bubble. I have got followers on there that know me and stuff, thank you very much, but these are women across the world, in America, all over the world, and again, I big up, I amplify lesbian women, butch women and black women. I did a whole, during the Black Lives Matter thing, did a whole thing putting the focus and the attention on, for instance, Breonna Taylor, say her name. I went with Black Lives Matter, but I'm also a radical feminist and a women's rights activist. So I was drawing attention to the plight of black women in America, and I do that on XX Power Nation as well. It's just gives me a bigger avenue, because I'm so political. I'm at it all the time. My Facebook isn't big enough for me anymore, and my Facebook, Izzy Bell Snaffy, is literally now, because I was doxxed and everything, is really people I know really well and that I trust. So I don't need to preach to the converted. So this is why I put it on. And my Twitter account at Bell Staffy, that's where I put most of my. We chat, or we all laugh, we all chat. But I don't need to convert my my sisters. They're already on board with this. So this is a way of getting our way of thinking and addressing the world out to women who wouldn't normally access radical feminist, real radical feminist stuff.
Yeah. And somebody's saying on the chat, Bev White, saying she worked with families of sex offenders, and so many would minimise what their relative had done and blame the child as manipulative.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Still going on?
Yes, because women can't stand to think that they've bedded someone like that, and they've messed up their children.
Well, it reflects on them, doesn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, really selfish, very, very selfish. Okay. Yeah. Very selfish to actually children, but it's about what this makes me look as a mother. That's what that's about, and I've come across that numerous times. And I have always assessed families with a wife or a mother that says stuff like that as high bloody risk, because they don't believe the offender has done it, even though he's in prison, has been sentenced. She just still doesn't believe it. High risk of offending. You are not protecting your children. You're putting that man's feelings first. Yeah. Protect your children.
Yeah, it's just my gobsmacked every time, you know, and I know it's always gone on. As somebody's put it very well here, Gemma, abusers groom the adults around them first.
Yes.
I guess, you know, if you're married to one of these guys,
they groom everybody. They groom everybody. They groom society. They groom absolutely everybody. Oh, sorry.
Your camera's gone.
Yeah, no. It's a low battery. Hang on a minute. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. That's
Boo.
Good. Yeah.
Boo.
So what's next for you then? What are you doing at the moment?
I'm exhausted. I'm really exhausted.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, the managed approach. I need to stay north for the managed approach, because that's an action that's ongoing in Leeds at the moment. So I'm not saying I'm in the Calder Valley, and I'm not saying I'm in Leeds, but I'll be north, and I can get to where I'm needed to be an activist quickly. So there's that going on. And I am involved in quite a lot of stuff. I can't say what it is. Sorry.
Okay, fine. That's all right. No, it's good. I'm sure we'll hear about it in due course.
Yeah, you will. Don't worry.
So, how do you see women's rights progressing over the next few years in the UK? We've had such a big backlash from the transgender movement. How do you think things are going to go?
Right. Okay. What I would like to say to people listening: number one, we need to get our bloody shit together and stop tearing each other apart. I mean it. This is what's going on in my movement. Is outrageous and it's disgusting. It has to stop. Keep your egos out of it. I would love to have a go at some women and what they say and get the moral purity and moral how going, but I don't, because I put my movement first. Stop it. I'm really angry about it, because women, you know, you might knock big personalities and stuff if they think they're big personalities, but who are being hurt in the middle of it are women, activists. You know,
I think it's very easy to. It's easy to go on an ego trip and think, oh, I can see what's wrong with that person.
Yeah.
I can see
support your activists.
I know that. Look, shut the fuck up and let them do it their way. You do it your way.
Yeah.
We all just get on with the job in hand.
You know,
Criticising each other will get a lot more done.
I've come under a lot of criticism from my own side for trying to build bridges between feminists, radical feminists, and women's rights activists. No, that's not on. I want to win this war against this.
Yeah.
You know, don't fuck us up.
Yeah.
This is damaging the movement. Stop it.
I don't know about you. I'm constantly surprised at our victories. I don't know why. We should be scoring victories all the time. You know, we had a little victory in Object the other week. We managed to get this course written by Gendered Intelligence. I know.
Down.
Yeah. And I thought, why am I surprised?
We are, but we're also, a lot of us are very strong, passionate women who are critical thinkers. Please stop turning it on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And but when people do, I think it's time to say nothing. You know, let them get on with it.
More maturity, less mouth, please.
Yeah, and a bit more getting out there. Great.
Yeah, it helps.
Lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
I know you obviously must have burned out doing all that work. Have you suffered? You mentioned this person who lived near you that used to be a friend that threatened you. Have you? I know so many women have been doxxed and harmed and hurt and lost their work and things like that.
Yeah.
What personal harm have you suffered?
Loads. I'm going to have to move from where I live because they know where I live. If they suss I'm Belstaffy, I'm literally buggered. I've been threatened already. The whole town is shut. They're frightened to talk to me because I don't believe in transgender. Not because I'm campaigning against pornography or BDSM, but because I don't believe in transgenderism. It's rubbish. Yeah, I'm having to move. I'm moving back to Leeds because I don't feel safe where I am. I was followed to a bar in February. I was followed.
Can you say that bit again? Because we lost you for a minute. Say it again.
Okay. I was followed to a bar by a trans rights activist, a masked man, a men's rights activist who he intimidated me and he tracked me to within 50 feet of my front door.
Ooh, that's not nice.
No, and this became because I was doing security for an anti-rape. MFN did Manchester Feminist Network and I did the security for it, and it was protested by men's rights activists, and one of them, I still don't know how he did it, but he tracked me to within 50 foot of my front door, reported it to the police. He threatened me, pulled his mask up and everything, and I told the police and they didn't do anything. I ended up sleeping with a knife by my bed for 2 weeks. Because of I've lost work. I used to do security work at a pub across the road. They can't because they've had so many complaints because I'm transphobic. I've lost work. I've lost friends. Sorry, I've lost work. I've lost friends. You know.
Yeah, it's tough. Very, very tough. Well, I think we're going to stop because you're breaking up a little bit. So I want to say thank you for everybody for all the work that you've done. And for all the activism and for using all those misfortunes and difficulties that you must have made the beginning part of your life so hard to inform all the things that you do for women and girls now. So I'm sure everybody would join me and say thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Danny. It's lovely. All right. Cheers.
Okay, cheerio. I'm going to say bye-bye now, folks. I've got a few good people coming up in the next few weeks. We're not here next week, but you will get a reminder when we're next on at the end of the month. We've got the daughter of an autogynephile man who's prepared to talk about what her experience was when her father decided he was a woman. We've got the wonderful Jennifer Bielek, who from the US, who wrote all the wonderful stuff about the money behind the transgender movement and still carries on with her 11th hour blog. She said she'll do a webinar for us from the US. Fiona Broadfoot's going to come on and talk about her experiences in prostitution and with the court case getting criminal records cleared for women in prostitution. And I've just thought I'm going to invite that Caroline Franson on, who's stirring things up in the Netherlands, and he's a wonderful person too. So lots of things to look forward to. Thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. Cheerio.
Did we do well, my darling girls? Did we really do well? We grew you up to be straight and strong, to do your best to know right from wrong. But we grew you in this awful world, a world that's hard and tough for girls. And part of your strength was to take it and make it okay. But it's not okay, my darling girls, in this fucked up, muddled up, mixed up world.